I set up my tent on a quiet stretch of the Appalachian Trail a few weeks ago. I thought some time in nature would help shake off my writer's block after my breakup. The woods felt peaceful, but almost too quiet. I remember that feeling now, like something was waiting. On my second night, I was jolted awake by dragging footsteps outside my tent. I told myself it was just an animal, maybe a deer. The air was heavy. I lay still, listening to the branches creak. Maybe I was imagining things, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The next morning, I crawled out of my tent. I looked around and noticed strange symbols carved into the nearby trees. They looked crude and unfamiliar. My heart raced. I shrugged it off, thinking other campers might have carved them. Still, unease crept over me. Later that day, I met a few other hikers on the trail. They looked twitchy and nervous. One of them said he saw strange shapes moving between the trees. Another mentioned flickers of movement in the corners of their eyes. I listened closely, heart pounding in my chest. I thought maybe these stories would help my writing. Maybe they'd make it feel real. The deeper I went into the trail, things changed. I started seeing shadows dart through the trees, but when I turned, there was nothing. I often felt like someone was watching me. It made me cold inside. My mind raced, but I laughed it off. Still, I knew I was scared. I found myself hiking further than I intended. My chest tightened with every step. The trees loomed around me, thickening the air. I couldn't help but feel a strange pull drawing me towards those shapes. Maybe I wanted to understand what was hiding. One night, I sat by my campfire, shadows dancing in the flames. Then I heard laughter. It wasn't normal. It echoed, coming from nowhere. I looked around, my heart thumping. I stood frozen, unsure of what I was even looking for. Something was wrong, but I couldn't see anything. I don't know how long I stayed like that. It felt like forever. Then the laughter stopped just as suddenly as it had begun. I turned around and it was silent. The woods had gone dead still. I stood up, taking a deep breath. Panic rose inside me. I wanted to run, but I couldn't make myself move. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Maybe I shouldn't have ventured so deep into the woods. I questioned everything. What was real? What wasn't? It felt like a dream, but I was wide awake. Anxiety gnawed at me as I crawled into my tent. I lay there, heart racing, hoping sleep would come. But I kept hearing things in the dark. I knew I would never return the same way I came. I woke up the next morning feeling different. The air outside my tent felt charged, like a storm was brewing. I took a deep breath and crawled out, scanning the woods. The symbols on the trees looked even more menacing in the daylight. I took a closer look, tracing the rough edges with my fingers. They twisted and turned in strange ways. I couldn't shake that sense of unease. As I packed my gear, I felt the need to get away from this place. The trail called to me, but it wasn't the friendly call of nature. It felt more like a demand. I tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the people I met. Maybe they had some advice. I set out, hoping to run into those hikers again. The trail was quieter than I remembered. My footsteps echoed, but the chirps and rustles of wildlife were eerily absent. Half an hour in, I spotted a shimmer of sunlight reflecting off something in the bushes. Curious, I pushed through and found a small weathered mirror lying on the ground. It looked out of place. I picked it up, expecting to see my own nervous face, but I felt an odd pull to check the other side. As I turned it over, my breath hitched. Instead of a reflection, there were marks all over it. Those same symbols from the trees, drawn in a spiraling pattern. My heart raced as memories of the laughter flooded back. That's when I heard it again, the laughter. It was close this time, almost behind me. I spun around, but I was alone. I could feel my pulse quicken, my thoughts churned. What if it wasn't just in my head? I took a step back, but the laughter echoed again, softer this time, teasing me to venture deeper into the trees. Fighting my instincts, I squeezed the mirror tightly in my hand and continued down the trail. As I walked further in, the trees pressed in closer. Shadows danced among the trunks, moving just out of sight. I wanted to believe it was just my imagination, but every now and then I caught a glimpse of shapes slipping between the branches. Then something caught my eye, a flash of red. No, it was a hand, reaching out from behind a tree. My heart dropped. I couldn't believe it. My breathing quickened and panic set in. I squeezed the mirror tighter, wishing it would provide some kind of protection. "Hello?" I called out, unsure of who or what I was trying to reach. There was silence, then the sound of footsteps retreating deeper into the woods. The laughter started again, echoing softly but taunting. It felt like a game I was no longer playing. Fear gripped me. I turned to run, but my legs felt heavy. Every instinct told me to turn back. I pushed forward instead, urgency driving my steps. My mind raced as I thought about what was behind me. Was it just my imagination? I didn't want to find out. That's when I saw it, a figure standing among the trees, backlit by the hazy sun. It looked at me without moving. The laughter stopped. The silence was deafening. I blinked, but it was still there, waiting. I stumbled back, fear choking me, just as questions piled on top of one another. What was it? What did it want? I needed to escape this nightmare. But the figure remained, its eyes locked onto mine. My next steps felt crucial, but what lay ahead was the unknown. The figure stayed motionless, its eyes like dark holes sucking in the light around them. Time seemed to stretch as I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my ears. I felt like prey, trapped in its gaze. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice shaky and thin. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it slowly raised a hand, motioning as if beckoning me closer. Panic surged within me. I didn't want to go toward it, but the pull was magnetic. I can't explain it, but my body felt like it wanted to obey. Suddenly, the symbols in the mirror flashed in my mind. I could almost hear the whispers of the trees, the laughter echoing once more. I gripped the mirror tighter, remembering the connection I felt when I first saw the patterns. They were familiar, unsettling, yet oddly inviting. But then came a crack, a sharp noise from the brush beside me. I snapped my head in that direction, and the figure took a step back, melting into the shadows. The laughter faded again, replaced by more rustling in the underbrush. I felt the urgency spike, and my instincts kicked in. I turned and ran. The trail blurred beneath me as I pushed through the tangled trees. I never looked back, certain that something was following me. Every snap of a twig felt like footsteps behind me. I stumbled, heart racing, feeling the weight of something sinister clinging to the air. After what felt like an eternity, I burst into a clearing. Sunlight cascaded down, illuminating the area. I paused, panting and scanning the ground. A sudden chill crept up my spine. In the middle of the clearing was an old stone well, its edges overgrown with tangled vines. The surface was marred with the same symbols I'd seen in the mirror and on the trees. I approached cautiously. Leaning down, I peered into the well. Darkness stretched below. I couldn't see the bottom. But as I stared, I could swear I saw something move, something alive. My heart raced again. I felt a magnetic pull to lean closer. "There's something down there," I whispered to myself. Did I dare drop something in? I pulled a small rock from my pocket, debating whether to let it fall. Just as I was about to let it go, a rush of wind whipped through the clearing, sending leaves swirling around me. It felt almost like a warning. Then came the laughter again, but this time it was different. It echoed from the well, a chorus of voices, all playful yet mocking. "Come play with us," they sang. My breath caught. My instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't move. Something about the well held me captive. I finally turned away, desperate to escape the chilling laughter. I sprinted back into the trees, each step fueled by a primal fear. Suddenly, I felt it, eyes watching me from the shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I had encountered was more than just a figment of my imagination. Then, out of nowhere, a voice called my name, and it stopped me cold. It was familiar, yet twisted, dripping with an uncanny echo. I froze, dread washing over me. Someone knew me, and they wanted something. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about fear. It was about discovery, an unraveling thread leading me deeper into a world I didn't understand, with dangers lurking behind every tree. I had to keep moving, but the path ahead was littered with questions that needed answers. I stumbled through the underbrush, trying to shake the feeling that someone was just behind me. My heart raced as I narrowed my focus ahead of me, determined to find a way out of the suffocating grip of the woods. The laughter echoed in my head, mingling with the memory of that shadowy figure. I had to forget it. I needed to escape, fast. As I pushed through the thick greenery, I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. Instinctively I turned, but there was nothing there. Only the rustle of leaves settling back into place. My skin prickled with unease. It felt all too familiar, like the prelude to a storm. I needed to get somewhere safe. After what seemed like hours, I finally broke free from the trees and stumbled onto a narrow path. The ground was gravelly and rough beneath my feet, the air thicker here, almost electric. I took a moment to catch my breath, wanting to center myself, desperate to shake off the anxiety. But the echoes of laughter lingered in my mind, like a haunting refrain. Keeping my pace quick, I ventured along the path, hoping to find someone who could help me make sense of all this madness. But there was no one, not a single soul. The silence enveloped me, heavy and oppressive. My thoughts spiraled. Why had I come here? What was I hoping to find? Just before I could let my doubts consume me, I reached a worn wooden signpost with arrows pointing in different directions. One marked Cedar Grove, another Whispering Falls. I squinted at the faded letters. Were these places real? Was anyone actually living nearby? A part of me wanted to follow the path to either one, to find someone who understood. But fear gripped me like a vice. Then a high-pitched giggle floated through the air, too clear to dismiss. It wasn't coming from the trees this time. It came from the valley beneath the path. I edged closer to the railing of an overlook, the ground sloping steeply below me. As I looked down, I saw a small group of children playing near a stream, their laughter clashing with the eerie echoes echoing in the woods behind me. But something was off. The children appeared translucent, flickering like candle flames, fading in and out of view. It felt like they were caught between two worlds. I felt a strange compulsion to call out to them, to reach out and break whatever barrier existed between us. But the voice that echoed in my mind reminded me of the figure and the laughter from the well. "Don't engage," I whispered to myself, stepping back instinctively.
The laughter transformed suddenly, morphing into a deep, resonant voice that carried a threatening undertone.
"Join us," it commanded, a swirl of darkness creeping in around the edges of my vision. In an instant I turned on my heel, heart hammering as I ran away from the edge. I sprinted back down the path, away from those ghostly children and the voice that beckoned me from the shadows. But as I tore through the trees, I could hear the laughter blending with whispers that grew louder, wrapping around me like chains. That's when I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet. I glanced back, and everything I'd just experienced spiraled into confusion. The path I'd taken had vanished, replaced by tall grass and dense fog. Panic set in. Where was I? Who else was here? And, most importantly, what did they want from me? I stumbled forward, heart racing. The thick fog swallowed me, and the tall grass brushed against my skin like fingers trying to hold me back. I squinted into the mist, searching for anything familiar, a hint of direction. My head spun with thoughts of the children and the voice that had called to me. Why had I felt the need to run if I was already lost? I pushed through the grass, brushing against the damp blades, desperate to find any sign of a path or someone who could help. Each step felt heavy. The whispers had quieted, but the laughter still echoed faintly in my mind, growing more sinister with each passing moment. I fought to drown it out, to focus on finding my way back. Ahead, the ground dipped sharply into a small hollow. Curiosity gnawed at me. Could it be a way out? Or maybe, just maybe, there would be someone there. My legs carried me down into the hollow, and I peered over the edge. What I found made my pulse quicken. In the center of the dip was an old, dilapidated cabin. Its walls sagged, and the roof seemed ready to cave in. The windows were dark, reflecting the gray gloom around them. It looked abandoned, but a chill crept down my spine. I could swear I saw movement behind one of the cracked panes. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence filled the air, thick and suffocating. I waited, listening, but it felt like the world was holding its breath. Is anyone there? Nothing. I couldn't tell if it was the cabin or the woods that frightened me more. Part of me wanted to turn back, but the other part urged me to go closer, to find out if anyone was really inside. I stepped tentatively toward the cabin, the grass yielding under my weight. As I approached, the door swung slightly open, creaking faintly as if inviting me in. My instincts screamed for me to run. Maybe I was imagining things, maybe I was losing my grip on reality. But curiosity overcame caution. I needed answers, and this might be my best chance. Steeling myself, I pushed on the door. It swung open with a painful groan, revealing a darkened interior that smelled of mold and decay. I hesitated for a moment, heart pounding, before stepping inside. The floorboards creaked ominously underfoot. "Hello?" I called again, louder this time. "Is anyone here?" A flicker of movement caught my eye from the corner of the room. I turned, and for a brief second I saw the outline of a figure, small and shadowy, vanishing into the darkness. My stomach dropped. I wasn't alone. "Wait!" I shouted, but they were gone. The air felt thicker now, charged with an unsettling energy. It was as if the walls were holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Then the laughter returned, louder this time, almost joyful. It filled the room, echoing off the wood and mixing with the whispers. I tried to back away, but the door slammed shut behind me, the sound reverberating like a clap of thunder. I was trapped. I stumbled back, heart racing, palms sweating. A familiar panic gripped me as I realized the door was locked tight. I pressed against it, pulling with all my weight, but it wouldn't budge. The laughter echoed again, loud and taunting, making my skin crawl. "Let me out!" I shouted, desperation lacing my voice.
but the only response was that accursed laughter. I spun around in the gloom, trying to find a flashlight or something that could offer me a glimmer of hope. My eyes adjusted slightly, and I spotted some old furniture shrouded in dust. There was a table, an overturned chair, and in the corner, a tattered curtain that barely hung from the rod. I moved cautiously toward the curtain, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a warning. As I approached, I noticed something peeling from the wall behind it. I pulled the curtain aside, and my breath hitched. There, nailed to the wall, was a small wooden plaque. "Beware," it read, the letters worn and faded. There were no instructions, no explanations, just the word hanging ominously in the air. I pressed my fingers against it, feeling the rough surface as I tried to make sense of the warning. Just then, a soft rustling noise came from the back of the cabin. I froze. It was too quiet for the wind. My heart hammered in my chest. Someone, or something, was in here with me. I hesitated, the urge to run wrestling with my curiosity. I needed to know what was behind me, but every instinct screamed for me to get out. The rustling grew louder, more pronounced. I turned slowly, preparing myself for whatever I might find. The shadows seemed to dance, and I strained to see into the depths of the room. That's when I saw it. A small figure crouched in the corner, shrouded in darkness. I couldn't make out any features, just the outline of a childlike shape, rocking slightly as if lost in thought. My throat tightened. "Who are you?" I barely managed to say. The figure froze. Then it turned toward me, and I felt the air chill. I caught a glimpse of wide, empty eyes before it began to laugh, mirroring the sounds that had haunted me since I entered the cabin. My stomach churned beyond belief. "Get away from me!" I shouted, stepping back. The floor creaked ominously, almost warning me, but I couldn't stand still. I spun on my heels, looking for another way out. Just then, the entire room went dark. The laughter faded to silence, leaving only the sound of my breathing and my rapidly racing heart. I fumbled around, desperate for some light or reassurance. Then came a whisper, soft and chilling, right beside me. "Stay." That one word echoed in my ears, sending a shock of fear through me. I had to get out. I had to find a way. Panicking, I began banging on the door. Each thud resonated through the cabin, but the door remained immovable. And then I heard the sound of footsteps, deliberate and slow, moving toward me from within the dark. Time froze as I faced the unseen presence, reeling as dread washed over me. "Stay," the voice whispered again, clearer now. I turned to run, but it was too late. The world around me exploded into chaos. I felt something grab my shoulder, its grip cold and unyielding. My breath caught in my throat as I whirled around, ready to confront whatever horror lurked in the shadows. But there was nothing, just the darkness closing in like a suffocating blanket. Heart pounding, my instincts kicked in. I had to move. I darted to the side, searching for a way out, any way out. I couldn't let that voice, that presence, trap me here. If I could just find a window, or maybe a way to break down the door, I could escape this nightmare. But then I stumbled over something on the floor, a small, fragile figure caught beneath my foot. I looked down, and there it was again. The childlike silhouette, now sprawled awkwardly on the floor. My stomach turned violently. How was it here? Had it followed me? In a panic, I kicked away from it, my sense of urgency overshadowed by an unsettling curiosity. But I couldn't linger. I turned and charged toward a window I could barely see, feeling the rush of cold air drawing nearer. I hit a wall instead. "Stay," The voice whispered once more, echoing in my ears with a maddening familiarity. I pressed against the wall, feeling for any cracks or openings, while keeping my eyes darting back toward the child. It remained motionless, but I could feel its gaze on me, cold and unblinking. The air thickened, laced with dread that coiled around me like a noose. Then I remembered the curtain. I sprinted back to the corner, pulling it aside with trembling hands. Behind it stood a window, still sealed, but the glass was thin and cracked. A thought shot through my mind. If I broke the glass, I might be able to escape. Desperation clawed at me, urging me to act. But as I reached for a chair, ready to smash it against the window, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the room, freezing me in place. The child had moved. My eyes widened as I watched it rise, limbs jerking in unnatural angles. Its laughter filled the room, a chilling symphony of chaos. Panic bubbled in my chest as it staggered closer, a puppet under someone else's control. "Let me go!" I screamed, hammering my fist against the window. The glass rattled but didn't shatter.
The laughter grew louder, reverberating like thunder in my ears. Just as I thought I might lose my grip on sanity, I saw the door at the far end of the room, partially open. I had to take the chance. I dashed across the cabin, heart racing, adrenaline surging. With each step, I could feel the child's gaze burning into my back, the laughter trailing behind me like a dark shadow. But then the door slammed shut right before my eyes. I froze, terror gripping me once more. I pressed against it, knowing that the cabin would not let me escape so easily. The footsteps resumed, slow and deliberate, approaching from the darkness behind me. I turned to face whatever was coming, my throat dry and my heart hammering against my ribcage. I could no longer deny it. My escape depended on confronting this darkness. But as my eyes adjusted once more, a sudden realization hit me. There was something else lurking in the shadows, something far more sinister than just the child's laughter. The heavy silence descended like a weight on my shoulders. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make sense of what lurked there. My heart raced as I strained to hear anything beyond that haunting laughter. The shadows shifted, revealing a larger form creeping forward. "No, no," I muttered, stepping back instinctively. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I was trapped. My options were dwindling fast. The light from the window barely cut through the oppressive murk, but it illuminated the outline of something tall and grotesque. It seemed to twist and contort with every slow movement, as though the shadows themselves were pulling it apart. My stomach twisted at the sight, the way it stretched, elongating limbs that looked mismatched and uneven. I had to think. The moments stretched, taunting me with every second. Then I remembered. There was the fireplace in the corner. If I could reach it, maybe I could find something, anything, to defend myself. I turned and sprinted away, glancing only briefly at the now animated child. Its expression sent chills down my spine. An eerie smile plastered across its face. I skidded to the fireplace, scanning for tools or anything that might serve as a weapon. The fireplace lay cold and empty, a testament to years without fire. Despair washed over me. Just then, I caught a glimpse of something glimmering at the edge of the mantel. A rusty fireplace poker. I grabbed it, gripping it tightly. It felt solid, a small comfort against the chaos swirling around me. Suddenly, the child let out a high-pitched shriek, cutting through the tension. The distorted form lurched one final time and then darted toward me, faster than I could have anticipated. I barely had time to react, but I swung the poker blindly in its direction. If I hit it, I couldn't allow myself to think about what that meant. I felt the poker connect with something solid. The figure recoiled, lurching back with hollow, pained wails that seemed to vibrate through the floor. My pulse quickened as fear turned to a crowded mixture of dread and adrenaline. But then the shadows shifted again, and I realized the poker hadn't just hit the figure. A second shadow had emerged beside it. An older entity, tall and imposing, enveloped in an aura of darkness. This new presence looked down at me with piercing eyes. Before I could react, the first figure lunged forward again, its limbs moving unnaturally. I brought the poker up just in time, but the force of its impact jolted me back. I stumbled against the fireplace, knocking over a loose stack of wood. That was when the door burst open. Light flooded the room, and I squinted, a mixture of hope and confusion rushing over me. The tall figure jerked back, retreating into the shadows. "Help!" I screamed, not knowing who stood in the doorway. My legs wobbled, adrenaline fading, as I realized I might finally have a chance to flee. But the darkness whispered again, "Stay." As I fought back the despair, I saw it. A small, dark object dropped from the remnants of the shadows. It hit the ground with a clatter, and my heart sank when I recognized it. A small, familiar doll, its eyes wide and hollow, staring up at me. That's when everything turned dark. I came to in a haze, the world around me blurring like a watercolor painting gone awry. My mind struggled to piece together the fragments, the laughter, the twisted figures, the feeling of dread crushing me. I focused on the faint outline of exits, but the door that had opened moments before was now closed, trapping me in this nightmare. Panic surged as I pushed myself off the floor. The room felt colder now, as if the shadows were thickening. The fireplace poker lay beside me. I reached for it, my hands trembling. Then, out of nowhere, I heard sniffing, like an animal prowling nearby. My heart raced again. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. The silence morphed into an echo against the walls. The doll, still lying on the floor, stared up at me with lifeless eyes, reminding me of the chilling emotion it had brought before. In my gut, I knew I wasn't alone. The air thickened. I looked around, searching for movement, each creak of the floor heightening my awareness. Suddenly, I spotted a shadow dart toward the corner of the room. I tightened my grip on the poker, ready for whatever was hiding in the darkness. Then I had a thought, a fleeting memory of that ominous laughter and the second figure that had appeared in the gloom. It was still lurking, watching, waiting. My pulse hammered against my temples. I took a cautious step forward. Maybe if I faced it, I could regain my footing. The old wallpaper peeling off the walls absorbed the scant light, but I saw it, an outline emerging again. The child stood near the edge, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, eyes glistening darkly. A part of me wanted to scream, but I fought it back. This was my chance to confront it. "Why are you doing this?" I yelled, hoping for some response, anything to bridge the eerie silence. Its smile widened, almost too big for its face. Just as I thought it might say something, the floorboards creaked ominously, and I turned. That's when I saw another figure, taller, more menacing than the first. It loomed at the door now, its silhouette backlit by whatever mysterious source of light was beyond the threshold. I felt my breath hitch in my throat as it stepped forward, revealing its long, distorted limbs. "Leave her alone!" I shouted, brandishing the poker like a shield. Instead of retreating, the figure leaned closer, forcing me to backtrack against the cold stone of the fireplace. The child near me twitched, almost like it was coming alive again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was working together with the looming figure. I had to do something. I couldn't wait around to be enveloped by darkness again. In a moment of sheer desperation, I lunged forward, adrenaline pushing my fear aside. I swung the poker at the child, and as it made contact, I felt a rush of cold air blast past me.
everything shifted. The shadows dissolved into a blur of incoherent shapes. The doll rolled back, and I heard the familiar echo of laughter morph into something deeper, something more sinister. I stumbled, caught up in the chaos, but I was done being passive. Then chaos erupted. I couldn't tell where the laughter stopped and the cries began, as reality blurred around me. Behind me, the door I thought I had closed earlier burst open again, light flooding back into the room. But this time, I realized I wasn't the only one who had opened it. And that's when I knew I had company. I rushed toward the door, blood pounding in my ears as I prepared to confront whoever had entered. My fingers trembled, the fireplace poker gripping my hand, its familiarity offering a flicker of comfort amidst the pandemonium. I burst through the doorway, unwilling to look back at the child or its unsettling laughter. The blinding light flooded over me like a balm, illuminating the exterior while shrouding the cabin in darkness. I took a deep breath, lungs filling with fresh air, a stark contrast to the suffocating dread I had left behind. But it was short-lived. A glance over my shoulder revealed the door swinging shut, as if resisting my escape. What was that? A voice pierced the thick air, cutting through the silence of the clearing. I spun around to see a man standing at the threshold of the trees, his face pale and eyes wide with apprehension. "Please, you have to help me. There's something in there," I shouted, gesturing wildly back toward the cabin. Doubt washed over me as I saw his gaze flicker toward the closed door, skeptical. "You won't believe me, but I'm not crazy. It's like a curse." He hesitated, swallowing hard, and stepping cautiously into the clearing. "There is no one in there," he replied, his voice low, almost a whisper. "I've lived here for years."
I've never seen anyone come out of that cabin. With dread clawing at my chest, I turned back, my heart dropping as the door creaked open slightly. The laughter echoed ominously, a cruel reminder of my torment. I could feel the quiet shadow of the child's presence lingering, as if taunting me to return. "I'm telling you there was a child, and something so much darker," I insisted vehemently, feeling desperation rise in my throat. "You have to come with me." Without a word, he stepped further into the clearing, drawing closer to the cabin's entrance. My stomach dropped. This man had no idea of the chaos lurking within. I noticed the way the curls of shadow seemed to grow longer as he stepped closer, spilling out like tendrils reaching for him. "Listen," I urged, fear clawing through me again. "Please don't." Before I could finish, he stepped through the threshold, as if compelled. My heart raced, a frantic rhythm urging me to act. The poker sat heavy in my hand, almost an afterthought against the tide of dread rolling back inside. "Wait!" I called after him, but the words felt swallowed by the wood's oppressive grasp. Inside, he paused, looking around the dim room. My pulse quickened as I glimpsed the shape of the child, still with that eerie smile, circling him like a predator. I couldn't bear to watch. It wasn't safe. But a magnetic pull gripped me, anchoring me in place. The front door hung ajar, quietly beckoning. But then the whispers began. A hushed chorus echoed in the gloom, their words almost familiar. "Stay." I blinked, realizing the presence had shifted toward him. "Get out!" I shrieked, but he stood as if entranced, eyes glazed over. The shadows thickened, creeping toward him, and I knew the darkness hungered. Just when it felt too late, I found the strength to take a step back. Angling my body, I raised the poker and swung, though my aim felt like an echo. Wherever the shadows had enveloped him, I couldn't see, and yet with every swing I felt the force of their power.
"Run!" I shouted into the depths. My voice cracked as I lunged forward, desperate to pull him away. He finally turned, snap out of whatever trance held him, but it was too late. He was caught, bound by threads woven from the laughter and shadows that had once haunted me. I pulled at him with urgency, yelling for him to break free. "Come on!" I tugged him hard, and somehow, in that moment, I felt a rush of warmth. Between us, a burst of light pierced through the haze, revealing another corridor, the figures retreating back into the darkness. With strength I didn't know I had, I dragged him out of that cabin and into the blinding daylight once more. We stumbled into the clearing, collapsing to the ground as my heart raced wildly. I gasped for breath. Outside, everything felt different, alive yet weighted with unseen sorrow. He took deep breaths next to me, lingering shock distorting his features. "Did we just—" he stammered, glancing back at the open door.
"I don't know," I admitted, my voice trembling. "But I think we have to get out of here," glancing nervously toward the unsettling doorway. Even in the daylight, the cabin seemed to pulse, reminding us that danger lingered below the surface. We pushed ourselves further from it, keeping our eyes locked on the path ahead. I couldn't help but glance back one last time. The door stood open, an invitation tinged with a sinister promise. Shadows danced in the cracks of the wood, flickering in and out of sight like whispers only I could comprehend. "It's over," I murmured, although a knot of uncertainty remained. Did we truly escape, or would it continue to follow, lingering just out of reach? I moved toward the hiking trail, but as we journeyed further, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, back in that cabin, unanswerable questions resided, waiting. The woods were alive with secrets, an echoing laughter still woven deep within. I glanced at the man beside me, knowing that some questions would remain unanswered. Could he hear it too? Would he ever see everything as I did? As we descended the trail, the air cleared, but the weight of what we encountered stayed with me. In that moment, I realized the stories we carry aren't just tales, they are truths waiting to be unearthed in shadows unseen. And whatever shape the darkness took, it was never truly out of reach.